When we lived in Oman, there were so many different Indian restaurants to choose from and some amazing dishes. I learned so many different new flavors and I knew I had to learn more about it. This is one that I researched on the internet to try to figure out a good one for tons of vegetables because I really enjoyed, just like meal saturated in vegetables. But this one's really great. It has a delicious sauce to it that's creamy and flavorful. They call them gravies oftentimes in Indian cooking, but to me it's always going to be a sauce, so we're just going to use that wordage. Try this one out. For your first time, don't do it on a weekday, but after you get it down, it could totally be a weekday meal. Obviously, one of the prettiest things about this meal is about how beautiful it is. All of these vegetables, and the most time-consuming thing is chopping them up, but you can feel so proud of yourself for how beautiful it looks. And if you want to pretend that you even grew them in your own garden, you can feel even more proud of yourself. So think it over, it's worth it. All right, first we're gonna take a bunch of potatoes. I've done about 2 to 3 potatoes here, and we're going to boil them to get them going. After about 5 minutes, we'll add some more. While we're waiting for our potatoes to get hot and boiling, we're gonna get ready to start working on our sauce. So I've got about 4 to 5 garlic cloves and about a 2-inch piece of fresh ginger that I peeled and sliced a little bit so that I can smash it up. And here I've got 1 red onion that I've just diced up. And it doesn't have to be a super fine dice. We're gonna actually blend this all in the end. All right, altogether this onion's probably about 1/3 to 1/2 cup of chopped onion. There's no real supersized vegetables outside of America that I found, so it's good to get those quantities, I suppose. All right, and then next I'm going to take my ginger and my garlic that I pounded out, and I'm gonna add that to it as well. And we're just gonna let this get warmed up, and then we'll move on to spices. All right, when all the good smells are smelling, then we're gonna add in 2 tomatoes diced up. All right, I'm stirring this around, and my goal here is to break up some of the tomatoes and get them so they don't look fresh anymore. And then about that point, I'm gonna start adding in my spices. All right, just after about 3 minutes, you can hear it's not sizzling as much, and it's starting to look a little bit more pasty rather than fresh tomatoes. It still will taste a ton better than canned tomatoes, so I really do recommend that you go with fresh. All right, next we're adding in spices. First, we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of some ground up cardamom. Next, we're doing 1.5 teaspoons of some coriander. Then we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of some cumin. And we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of some turmeric. Really easy to remember. All right, then we're going to do 1 big fat tablespoon of garam masala. We're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of some fenugreek. Looks like this. It's pretty cool and extremely good for your immune system. And then finally, we're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of some clove, just ground up clove. We're gonna work this all in here, and you're gonna notice it's going to get a lot drier. But again, as we talked about in other Indian cooking videos, cooking these spices just blends them, and it puts all the flavors together like you're not going to get if you put them in at other times. I'm learning a lot more about Indian cooking and when they add spices or don't add spices, and it really does change the way that a dish comes together. It's really cool. So as you can see, we've got this neat paste now, and that's gonna be the base for all of our amazing flavor in this. All right, once I let this kind of cook for about 1 minute or 2, we don't want to go too much. I'm going to take out my coconut milk that we had fresh in the freezer and just kind of thawed it out. I'm going to add that in here. Plus, I'm going to add in a bunch of just coconut shavings that I had from when we made that coconut milk. You can check out that video if you want to. I think it's pretty awesome because you just don't see that very often in America, where I grew up. All right, so we're just going to blend everything together, get it a little warm. All right, lastly for the sauce, I'm gonna take a big handful, just about 1/2 cup of some raw cashews. And this is going to be what's going to make our sauce really nice and creamy and delicious. So get that all worked in there, let it soak up the liquids, soak up the flavors, and we'll just let it simmer for just a few minutes. This is just a little bit drier than I want it to be, so I'm just gonna add in a cup of water. And that's my rice beeping. So it'll be ready for us when we're ready to eat. All right, my potatoes have now been boiling for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna add in some salt just to make sure everything tastes, nice and salty. And then I'm finally just gonna add in all the rest of my vegetables, my bell pepper, my green beans, my carrot, and then a bunch of cauliflower. I know what you're thinking here. She should have used a bigger pot. I'll tell you what she's thinking. She's too stubborn to get another one out. Solution. After about 5 minutes of this simmering, I'm just gonna turn off the heat and let it sit a little bit and cool down before I blend it. I forgot to mention, I don't get any sponsoring or any money or anything for mentioning this. It's just awesome. Freeze-dried vegetables and fruit from this company, Thrive Life, is absolutely amazing. We oftentimes need some sort of food storage when we're living abroad, just because things aren't available or because they're just really bad quality or whatever else it might be. And these green peas are an amazing protein source. All you have to do is add them in a bit of water, and it takes only like a minute or two. And I feel like they're even better than like you get in the freezer section. Plus I can have a huge bulk of them, and I don't have to worry about them running out of stock in the grocery store. So check this place out if you're looking for really good food storage, whether you're living abroad or in America. What I'll do is just add a handful to this strainer, and then when I pour off my vegetables that are boiling, then I'll have, these will be all cooked up and ready as well. Right, I got my sauce in my blender, and you can really salt whenever you want to, but I'm gonna add in about 2 good, 5-finger pinches of some salt in here just to make sure it's good and seasoned. And then I'm going to blend. After about 5 minutes, my vegetables are all done, and I'm just gonna pour them all with some great steam into this strainer and just let them cool a minute. All right, finally, a little taste for salt and some honey to see if you need any. I think I could use just a touch of honey. So I'm just gonna drizzle in a little bit and then stir it all in. And I've taken about 2 cups of some chickpeas, and I've just thrown it in with my vegetables just to kind of get it all in the same place so I can dump it in the bowl with the sauce all at once. All right, I'm stirring up the sauce in with the vegetables, getting everything incorporated. All right, lastly, I'm taking about 2 tablespoons of some chopped up cilantro. I'm just gonna mix that in there, and it's good, and then we can get it to plate.